Many in the audience know about the Central Subway project because we've experienced firsthand the transit shortcomings in Chinatown and are looking for solutions. Is the Central Subway the solution we are looking for? Are there better alternatives? Or are we too far along with the project to turn back or change course? Is there a racial bias against the project? So I have a question that will be directed to Cesar Ascarun, Jeff Adachi, John Avalos, and Terry Jones Baum. Here's the question. What is your position on Central Subway? And what does your position tell us about your values and vision for San Francisco versus those who disagree with you? Let's start with Cesar. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. And my position is San Francisco is broke. We don't have money. We need the money for you. I have a radio program every day, and I tell them how the Chinese people, they achieve housing. I teach the Latino people, and a lot of people like this. One family, 10 families, they get together, and they buy 10 families a house. The next year, 2 families more, they buy a house. Together, in 5 years, the 10 families, they have a house. That's the way it is. Now about the Central Freeway. Right now, the price tag is $1.5 billion. That money can be used because we're not in a rush to make that 8 blocks for $1.5 million, which right now, myself, I'm not against anybody because I grew up in Chinatown myself. I grew up in this neighborhood. It's just that I will stop and I will do first, help with so many people in Chinatown, they don't even have a place to sleep. Thank you.
Thank you, Cesar. Jeff, your turn.
Thank you. You know, this issue is a critical issue to this community, and I understand that. And I would not be the kind of mayor who made decisions unilaterally. I think it's very important that, you know, obviously this is a project that's been underway for some time, and to acknowledge that. And there's been a lot of work by folks in this community to make the Central Subway happen. However, there are questions, and I think valid questions that have been raised by the grand jury. The civil grand jury is a body of independent citizens that is empowered to investigate matters that they're directed to. And there is actually a statutory obligation for the Board of Supervisors to now hear the report that was made. There's going to be a hearing in October. And I do think that the questions that have been raised by the grand jury should be addressed. And it may mean that we look at a different design. It may also mean that we look at alternatives. But what's important, I think, is that we make sure that we know the truth before going forward.
Thank you, Jeff. John?
I support the Central Subway, and I've actually supported it with a number of votes already at the Board of Supervisors, votes approving different parts of the project. And since I've been running for mayor of San Francisco, been to many neighborhoods across San Francisco where many people voice opposition to Central Subway. And I am still in favor of the Central Subway. I am really concerned how our project is now in jeopardy because the Central Subway has become politicized during this mayor's race. And while there are parts of me that get squeamish sometimes when I think about it and I vote on the Central Subway, I am a supporter of the project. And I get squeamish because, it's a lot of money that we're spending. But I believe I want to be consistent with who I am and what my votes have been and supporting a project that is really needed in this part of town. We need to rebuild Muni, and this is one part of Muni that we are currently rebuilding. I want to see that happen, and I want to make sure we don't lose the federal dollars that can help us do that rebuilding process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Terry?
I certainly believe that Chinatown needs better transportation, but I do not believe that the Central Subway will solve the problems. It's just too badly designed, and it does not connect to Market Street. So I cannot support it. I am also concerned that it makes a transit from the southeast corner of the city more difficult because now those people don't have a direct way to get to Market from the T line. And I believe that all citizens should be served, and the southeast has had a very hard time. I'm also concerned that it will lead to the gentrification of Chinatown and the destruction of a community that has been a sanctuary for immigrants for so long. So I do believe we have to go back to the design table. We have to come up with something that better serves people, that doesn't detract from another part of another neighborhood's transit, and also improves transit for Chinatown.
This question is for Dennis Herrera, also about the Central Subway. Dennis, you've come out with very strong critiques of the Central Subway, but it's been a project that's been going through many years of community and public hearings. Why did you not come to discuss the issue with the community, to hear views before opposing the subway, and at this last stage of the project, when the project is about to receive full federal funding?
Thank you. I sort of want to echo what Jeff Adachi had to say about the need for community collaboration. And this has been an evolving project. And I want to compliment all the community members that have been a part of the process and the project. And it is true that when it was $650 million, I was in full support of the project. There have been developments over time that have led me to the conclusion that I no longer think, as currently designed, it is a prudent investment. And that was based on the overall operational impact on Muni, the lack that my concern that it was not living up to its potential, that it was designed first to do as part of the 4 corridors plan to connect communities. The route changes, the dollar impact, the projections on ridership caused me to reach my conclusion after I read the grand jury report. And I think leadership is about raising questions when you have them and not going blithely along, ignoring issues that arise. But I am committed to continuing the dialogue with the community, because I do believe also that we have to make sure that we find a solution that values what Chinatown has always been about and addresses the transit needs of the community. But my concern right now is that this project as currently designed does not fit the bill.
Thank you. The next question is for David Chu, Tony Hall, Emil Lawrence, and Ed Lee. What is your position on Central Subway? And would anything change your position? For example, increases in expected costs, changes in locations of station stops, or the ability or inability to transfer? Let's start with David.
I have been a strong supporter of the Central Subway since before I joined the Board of Supervisors, and I remain a strong supporter of the Central Subway today. This is why yesterday I introduced a resolution that was supported by 10 of my colleagues to reaffirm the support of the Board of Supervisors for this important project. For 20 years after the Loma Prieta earthquake, the densest and least transit accessible neighborhoods in the city, and we are in that neighborhood, in the heart of that, has not had the transit access that it deserves. And we have not had a transit hub that connects Chinatown with the rest of the city. We need to do that, and we also need to remember that if this project doesn't move forward, San Francisco is going to lose $1 billion. $1 billion worth of transit improvements and jobs. And from my perspective, I appreciate all the objections that have been raised recently, but they are not new. We have dealt with these issues, we have heard them, we have resolved them, and the community deserves this, and this is why I support the project.
Thank you. My position on the Central Subway has never changed. In fact, when I was a supervisor back in 2001, we had a hearing. We had a special committee look at the Central Subway, and my position then is exactly as it is today. And I'm not changing my position because Ed Lee's in the race, who I've worked with many years, or Dennis Herrera, recently our city attorney, who's changed his mind. My position has always been it's poorly designed. Chinatown deserves better than this. My position is exactly today as it was then. It's going to be underfunded, and San Francisco is going to get stuck paying the bill for what is a white elephant. Believe me, folks, you deserve better than this. You need a station that connects to the other lines. You need a station that can service the elderly in your community. This thing was politically motivated going back to the Agnos administration. And there's a lot of people out there that know what I'm talking about. I'm not the kind of mayor to dole out contracts on a politically motivated basis. You deserve better. And as your mayor, I will stop the funding of it now, redesign it, and make sure it suits your needs.
Thank you. Nathan.
Hi. My position on the subway project pretty much is no. And the reason for it is that the estimates right now are coming in at $1.7 billion when they're most likely up at $7 to $8 billion if you take the actual figures used on the bridge. They just keep multiplying. 2, it's a 5 to 10 year project. 3 also is that although I have an MA in corporate finance, I drive a taxi in this city through that tunnel almost 5 days a week. The problem isn't with the congestion, the problem is with the muni bus transportation system. We have truncated buses that stop from stop to stop to stop, going all the way through the tunnel that backlogs the traffic all the way through. I'm not 100% opposed to it, but the federal government of building a project is broke. They're dead broke. So is the state of California, so is the city. This is a project for the big financiers that are going to 80% out of San Francisco and 2 for the real estate speculators up around Chinatown that are just licking their chops and saying, hey, we can't wait to double and triple the price of our real estate. Thank you.
Thank you. And Natalie, please.
I am in favor and supportive of the Central Subway. You know, and let's be very real about this, if it was badly designed, the state and the federal government, after years and years of re-review, would have rejected it. But it's been time and time again, it's been reinforced as one of the best, highly rated transportation systems ever designed. At the same time, we have to move quickly right now. We can't afford to delay this. You know why? Not only, as David Chu said earlier, we would lose that money. Our new housing in this city is going to be built in the southeast corridor. That's the only land left. We already have plans on the way, and the infrastructure is being built for 10,500 new homes in our city. How can those residents be able to travel around the city without a modern system? That's our future. That's how people are going to transfer. They can't go on the surface of our streets anymore. You know that. The people who ride Muni know that already. So it is, and by the way, the experts are not the civil grand jury. They've been all the people involved in transportation. Civil grand jury doesn't know anything about transportation.
Thank you.
Can we read that? Do we have the opportunity to read that? I'd like the opportunity to rebut that statement.
We're going to keep going with the questions that we have. So the Central Subway clearly raises big questions for transit-dependent communities like those in Chinatown. Tell us your position, and if you do not support the project, how else can you address the fact that current transportation needs are not being met? Not just in Chinatown, but throughout the city. So, Loma Peng?
Well, I live in Chinatown for the last 35 years, and I hear merchants crying. It's a concern of the merchants what happened with the subway construction. So, my take is, since 2009, there's an organization formed called SafeMuni.com to look into the problem, how we're going to improve Muni, and also particularly Central Subway. I would say I have a lot of reservations, and just because I live in Chinatown, it doesn't mean that I have to wholeheartedly support the Central Subway. We have to look into it. This is a very, very serious problem.
Joanna Reese, same question. If not through the Central Subway, how will you address the fact that current transportation needs are not being met?
Well, so I'll start off by saying I support the project. The project's well underway. I think the most important thing for the next mayor is to make sure that this project runs on time and on budget, but most importantly, with full transparency. We need to understand who the contracts are going to for the people building this. We need to understand who's getting the jobs that are part of this project. I absolutely believe that we need to invest in infrastructure and development. I think this project represents that. But it has to be done with transparency and accountability. And I think that's where the issue is with people. Because there's open hearings in terms of getting input from the community, and then decisions are made behind closed doors. And all of this needs to be out in the open in a way that the community really understands where the money's going, how it's being invested, and how the project is being managed. And if we can do that, I think we're going to have good support for the project, and we're going to continue on development that's critical for our community.
Thank you.